Hey, what is up, guys? How is it going? This is the Point After Podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Ewell. Tonight we have a very good show planned out for you with many good topics. We have the finest from Overreaction Monday. Some very hot takes, only the hottest and spiciest takes for us tonight. We have another topic. Finally, Dallas has figured out who their head coach is going to be, and obviously it is not Jason Garrett. We're going to talk a bit about Tom Brady this evening, and then we're going to end the show with a good old franchise quarterback comparison. So I am excited. I hope you guys are. I am ready to get into it. Once again, this is the Point After Podcast. However you guys are listening to with us this evening, we appreciate you spending your time with us. And without further ado, here we go. Let's get into it. Once again, guys, I am your host, Mark Ewell, and we are here for the first episode of the Point After Podcast, where we will cover the most recent in sports happenings around the world across all sports. But for this first topic, we're going to do a segment called Overreaction Monday, where we're going to do only the hottest of takes. They might be takes I agree with, they might be takes I don't agree with, but some of them are fan-submitted, and some of them are ones that I have created. I might not even agree with all the ones that I created, but nevertheless, let's get into it. The first Overreaction Monday is the Patriots dynasty is over. Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. The Patriots' reign of terror across the NFL landscape is over. Is this an overreaction? Let's dive into it. Let's look at the year they had. 12-4, AFC East champs. They won their division, went to the playoffs, and if it wasn't for a loss to the Dolphins, they would have had a first-round bye. They were really close to a first-round bye. Am I ready to write them off and say the dynasty is over? A better question, what defines a dynasty? I define a dynasty as a team who is consistently good and consistently performing at a high level. I would consider a dynasty a team that is consistently going to the playoffs and consistently has a chance to win a championship. Now, at some point this year, every single one of us across America thought the Patriots had a chance at one point or another. Maybe it was early in the season, maybe we lost hope towards the end once we saw who they really were, but there was still a chance, and they still won their division and went to the playoffs. So is the Patriots dynasty really over? My take on that was, does a dynasty need to win the championship every single year to be a dynasty? I don't think so. And I mean, let's look beyond that. The Patriots dynasty for the past decade has really been something that we'll likely never see again across NFL in all likelihood. They had a string of 9 straight AFC championships. 9 straight. That is baffling to think about. And over the last 20 years, they have gone to 9 Super Bowls. Nearly every other year since Tom Brady took over as quarterback, he has gone to the Super Bowl. And they won 6 of them. I mean, I'm not ready to write them off and say the dynasty is over yet. I think it is 100% an overreaction by the media and by sports fans to say it's over. As long as Bill Belichick is the coach and Robert Kraft is the owner, you know, they're still going to be there. And if Tom Brady comes back next year, I'm sorry. I think this team is going to be even better next year. The problem with the offense this year, we're getting a little off topic, but there was no offensive weapons for Brady to work with. And this leads into our next Overreaction Monday topic of Tom Brady is done. Tom Brady is washed up. Again, I think that's an overreaction. Because if we look at the Patriots and their pass catchers, Tom Brady lost Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski, one of the greatest tight ends of all time. A career cut way too short, we can all agree with that. Just a fun-loving guy. He was an awesome player to watch. Just absolutely dominating at the tight end position. However, losing him was a huge part of that Patriots offense, and everyone knew it. Bill Belichick knew it. That's why he went out and drafted the first wide receiver he has ever drafted in his time in New England in the first round, N'Keal Harry. Everyone, myself included, I thought, oh no, here we go again. Like, this is another guy that is going to pan out for the Patriots perfectly, Hall of Famer, and knowing our luck, and it would turn into another 20 years of the dynasty. Well, N'Keal Harry, I don't want to call him a bust, but he is certainly nowhere near the level of what he should have been for a first-round pick. On paper, tall, athletic, big guy, much like a Gronkowski in that sense, where I thought he was going to be great to fill that kind of hybrid wide receiver tight end slot that Gronkowski would leave. And this would allow Edelman in the slot to get open and have some more single coverage. And Julian Edelman, we're going to get to him in just a minute. He is a great receiver if he is your number 2 or number 3 option. Great! But simply enough, he is not a number 1 option. If he is the only guy that you can go to, he's not the guy. He's not the Michael Thomas. He's not the Antonio Brown. He's not that guy, the Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, that number 1 receiver that it doesn't matter if you double him, he's still going to make his catches. It's Julian Edelman, sure-handed as he is, led the league in drops this year. So, what was Brady left with? They made a nice trade for Mohamed Sanu halfway through the year. But he's another guy that kind of blew up in the Patriots' face this year. They traded a second-round pick to Atlanta to acquire Mohamed Sanu. Everyone thought, okay, there it is. That's the fix. It didn't end up working out like that. And you might be asking, why is that? Because Mohamed Sanu, much like Julian Edelman, is a great receiver when he's your number 2 or number 3 option like he was out in Atlanta. In New England, when he had to step into that bigger role, he just couldn't fill the shoes. What New England's lacking right now is they are lacking, 1, any semblance of a tight end. They need a tight end. And 2, they need that number 1 option. So to say Tom Brady is done and Tom Brady's washed, getting back to it, I think it's an overreaction just because we can't give a fair assessment yet. We still see flashes in the games where Tom looks great. We see flashes where Tom looks rough. How much of that is his receivers? How much of that is him? We don't know because we haven't had a chance yet. The offensive playmakers that Tom was put out there with this year was definitely one of the top 2 worst cores he has had in his career. And he's at the point in his career where he needs some guys to help him out. He's not the, Tom Brady prime from a few years ago where you could give him a peanut salesman from the second deck and he'd make him work and do an all-pro. He needs some help. And this gets us into another topic I want to talk about. I heard some murmurings about Aaron Rodgers and how he is on the 18th hole. He even earlier this year said he saw the 18th hole coming. And so this is our next Overreaction Monday, is that Aaron Rodgers is done. For the same reasons, and some different, of Tom, I think the comparison to Aaron is he's not washed either. Because when you really think about it, Aaron might be having a down year, which he is. You look at his stats, you look at statistics, him and Tom both having down years. But players are allowed to have a down year. You and me. I go to work every day as a teacher. Not all of my lessons for my students are great. It's some are going to be duds. You're going to have your off days. And same with sports athletes. They're going to go into their job. Some days they're going to just be a little bit off. Some days they're going to be absolutely on and have the best game of their careers. Some career years they're going to have the best year of their career. And then some years they're going to unfortunately have one of these down years. And for Aaron, I think that this is just one of his years. And as crazy it is to say, as much criticism as Aaron is getting, the Packers are 13-3. They have a first-round bye. They're the second seed. And when it comes time to playoffs, you're seriously going to bet against Aaron Rodgers? At home in Lambeau? which is arguably one of, if not the top 3 toughest places to play in the league. Because when you get up to the New Englands, the Green Bays, the Seattles, it is a different environment. And especially in Green Bay and New England, it is a new kind of cold. I'm sorry. I have trouble looking at this and saying Aaron Rodgers is done. I, I, I just, when you got Aaron Jones in the backfield, you can make the case top 3 running backs in the league. You got Devontae Adams, you can make the case one of the top 3 receivers in the league. You got the new hotshot coach, Matt LaFleur, who's doing a pretty darn good job in his first year. And you got Aaron Rodgers, the bad man, at quarterback. I'm sorry, 100% it is an overreaction to say him or Tom Brady are done and washed up. This next Overreaction Monday clip might anger some of you out there. And I think that because this is one I wrote and this is one I agree with. But just hear me out first, alright? Carson Wentz cannot and will not be a franchise quarterback. I'll let that sink in for a minute. Carson Wentz cannot be a franchise quarterback. Okay, let's dig into this a little bit. Carson Wentz, he's been in the league for a few years. I'm not doubting his skill level here. I want to make that explicitly clear. Carson Wentz is an extremely talented young quarterback. He has got a great arm. He's mobile enough to move around the pocket and get a first down with his legs if he needs it. He has great vision to look downfield. He throws his guys open, strong arm. But here comes the problem. This season, for the first season in his career, he managed to play all 16 games. Every other year, he was hurt. When Philly went on that Super Bowl run a few years ago with Nick Foles, because Carson Wentz got hurt, there was murmurings that Carson Wentz is not a great leader, and he's not very well respected in the locker room. Now, these murmurs have kind of died down since Nick Foles left. But there was part of me that always thought, maybe Philly should have stuck with Nick Foles. Because Doug Peterson and Nick Foles seem to work really well together and gel better than I have seen Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. So I think they chose the wrong quarterback there. Because they could have gotten a haul for Carson Wentz too. But they stuck with Carson Wentz. They said, he is our future. Well, they stuck their future on a guy who is injury prone. And perhaps more frightening than that is this year, Carson Wentz has turned into a turnover magnet. Not in the interceptions so much, the fumbles. He is not taking care of the football. And to win games in the NFL, you need to take care of the football. It's as easy as that. If you do not take care of the football in the NFL, you are going to lose games. It's as easy as that. The team who wins the turnover battle is the team more often who is going to win the game. So I ask you again, do you want the injury-prone quarterback who's only played one full season in his career? And to boot, when he finally played the full season this year, in the first playoff game, what happens in the second quarter? He gets knocked out hurt. Again, I'm not doubting the guy's talent because the Eagles had a lot of injuries this year. And for that team to have made the playoffs is a testament to Carson Wentz's skill. His skill level is insane. It's great. But that huge upside also has the huge downside of his injuries. And to me, I would rather have a quarterback who I know is there and reliable and is going to make it through the year without injury. And it stinks to have to say that because Carson Wentz is a very talented young quarterback. But I don't think he can be a franchise quarterback because he can't have that reliability. And until he shows that he can make it through a season and then go to a playoff game and make it through the playoff game and win playoff games, I'm sorry, until he does that, I'm going to keep on my statement and hold true to it that I do not think he can be a franchise quarterback. I do not think that is an overreaction because we've seen the body of work at this point. Carson Wentz just right now cannot be a franchise quarterback. Moving on to our last Overreaction Monday statement. This one I had a little bit of fun with. The Dallas Cowboys are Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown is the Dallas Cowboys. Let me explain. What do I mean by this? Antonio Brown cannot stay out of his own way. I loved watching Antonio Brown on the field. He's one of the most electric and fun players to watch in the NFL. But the guy's an idiot and he should not be playing in the NFL. For the things he has done, he does not deserve to play in the NFL again. Simple as that. And every single time that he's had a chance, he cannot stay out of his own way. When the things start dying down about him, the countless stories, he has to do something else stupid to keep himself in the headlines. Because he cares more about his brand, himself, his name getting in the news, more than he does about playing football and more about his fans. And that's just selfish. It's selfish to his fans. It's selfish to his teammates, the people who are relying on him. It's selfish to the owners who gave him a chance, the coaches who wanted him. It's just straight up selfish. And he cannot stay out of the headlines. And here's where I'm drawing a comparison to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, more specifically Jerry Jones, his thing is the Dallas Cowboys are the headline. Whenever they get out of the headline, he has to say something or do something so that way people like me and you and the sports commentators on Fox and ESPN keep talking about them. And Jerry's smart in this way because he knows that if we talk about him, publicity is always a good thing and it's going to help boost sales. More money. But, again, you can't help but think, much like with the Antonio Brown, all this media attention and this constant headlines, what does that do to the locker room? I think Jerry Jones is just as much to blame for all the mishaps in Dallas over the years as Jason Garrett was. Jason Garrett, he was not a phenomenal coach, but he wasn't a bad coach. You know, he is that exactly what his record says. He's an 8-8 kind of coach, strong offense mind, who, you know, when he gets carried by some good calls or some good talent, he can end up going, 12-4, 11-5, even getting a 1 seed. And when he's not carried and doesn't get the good calls, he can drop to as low as, 7-9, 6-10. But most of the time, he's a good enough coach to just go 8-8. And that's just not good enough to be an NFL coach. It's just not, because you need to win games if you want to keep your job. But Jerry Jones and the constant media circus that is the Dallas Cowboys does not promote that culture of excellence, and it does not help the team run more functionally. So, once again, the Dallas Cowboys are Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown is the Dallas Cowboys. They both cannot stay out of the media, even though if they do, it is for their well-being and will help them in the long run. I don't think that's an overreaction either. However, if you care to disagree with any of these, or you want to reach out and you want to be a live caller on the show for next week, we will post a podcast schedule on our Instagram and Twitter. And we're going to start taking live calls pretty soon. But please let us know and reach out to us in the email section of our YouTube or just let us know down in the comments. What do you agree with? What do you think was an overreaction? What do you think is not an overreaction? Agree, disagree? Let's just strike up a conversation. That is the point of the podcast. And let's keep it on going. Staying on the topic of Dallas. As you all know, they fired Jason Garrett from his offensive coordinator and head coach role. who he wasn't even running the offense so much, but part of me really thought they were going to keep Jason Garrett, at least in the organization. Because Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones are so close. Jason Garrett is like Jerry Jones' second son. You know, I really thought they were going to keep him in. And they tried like heck. But in the end, he left. And who none other than Mike McCarthy, previously Green Bay head coach, is now going to be head coaching in Dallas. So what do we think of this here at the Point After Podcast? A little bit of yes, a little bit of no. Jerry Jones, as we reported on earlier in the week, said that he was looking for a proven NFL head coach, someone who has been there and done that, someone who has playoff experience. And he even went out and got a guy who has a Super Bowl championship ring on his resume, which is real tough to do. And this is a smart move, and I'm going to tell you why. Although some of you may have doubts about Mike McCarthy and that Aaron Rodgers carried him through his career, he's at least shown he can win in the playoffs. Even though he had Aaron Rodgers, he still had to go through the likes of Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and all these other great teams that he's beaten on his road to get to that Super Bowl, and countless playoff wins. In fact, Mike McCarthy has the second most playoff wins since he started coaching, which is 10, and he's second only to Bill Belichick. And saying you're second to Bill Belichick in anything is pretty much saying you're first asterisk. Furthermore, in 9 of the 13 seasons that he was coaching in Green Bay, he went to the playoffs. 9 of the 13 seasons, he went to the playoffs. Obviously, that's not every year, but that is pretty darn good. And when you think about those 10 playoff wins, that averages out to over 1 win per postseason. So he's not just getting to the postseason. He's going to the postseason and winning. He has a .618 winning percentage over the course of his career. Say what you want about Mike McCarthy, but I think he's a pretty solid hire. This could 100% blow up in the Cowboys' face. But what Jerry Jones is saying, and I agree with, by hiring Mike McCarthy, an experienced head coach, rather than going for the hot trend of young hotshot coordinators, he's saying, I believe in my team now. Now is our time to win. Now is our time to go. We have the talent right now. The Cowboys have the talent right now to go win a Super Bowl. They just need the experienced coach to help them and go do it with them. Aaron Rodgers, for those of you who think Aaron Rodgers carried Mike McCarthy through his career, was quoted as saying about Mike McCarthy's quarterback camp that he holds every year around March. He invites all of his quarterbacks, previous and current, to a 2-week camp. He reviews every single play from the previous year with his quarterbacks. He hones in on some of the fine details, such as the arm angle, head position, and one of his big things is footwork. And these all enable the player to be a much better quarterback at his quarterback camp. He's been known to spend time fixing how quarterbacks take snaps from the center, just to make sure that ball security is a number one priority. This attention to detail, I think, can be a very good thing, and this structure can be a very good thing in Dallas. Because that's one thing Dallas has lacked is structure. Aaron Rodgers was quoted as saying, breaking that thing, referring to the quarterback plays, down to a science, it really gives you a good feel for what you need to work on. Aaron Rodgers was saying this. So if Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, can say this, what do we think Mike McCarthy can do with Dak Prescott? Frankly, I'm excited to see what the Cowboys have in store for us this coming year under Mike McCarthy. I think it's going to shock a lot of people. And again, Jerry Jones avoids the trend of hiring the young hotshot coordinators. Because, yeah, some of them have worked, like San Francisco. But the Rams with Sean McVay, they made it to a Super Bowl last year, but it didn't last. The Bengals didn't work. The young hotshot coordinator and high-flying offense trend in the NFL seems to have died just as quickly as it came. And the move by Jerry Jones to hire Mike McCarthy, an experienced, proven head coach, I think is a testament to that. And it's a testament to Jerry Jones believing in his team and saying, we have the talent to go win now. Now is our window. Let's go do it. We're going to wrap up tonight's podcast with a fun little game where we are going to compare franchise quarterbacks and who would we take going forward. We're going to set these trends of 1 to 3 years, 5+ years, and then 15+ years. So there's 3 different slots. We need to pick 3 quarterbacks, and we are going to imagine that the quarterback is dropped into a dream scenario. Perfect offensive line, all pros. We're going to pretend they have complete studs at wide receiver. I mean, let's say DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas. Let's throw them all out there on the field at once. And let's give the quarterback a solid running game, too. I mean, you drop anyone in this scenario, they're going to ball out. You could grab a guy off the street and he'll ball out in that situation. But, for the sake of the argument, let's drop our quarterbacks in this scenario. Who are we taking? Well, this first answer might shock you a bit. For the 1 to 3 year scenario, I'm actually going to draft Tom Brady. He is old. He did show signs of regression this year, but as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, we didn't really get a true test of how Tom Brady's doing this year because he didn't have the playmakers around him. And as I said earlier, if you drop anyone in a scenario with the talent of wide receivers as we're imaginary giving this quarterback, anyone can make anything happen. So the reason we're really drafting Tom is for those untouchables. Those factors that make Tom Brady Tom Brady. I want a quarterback on my team for the next year or so, however long he can give us, who, if we get down by 2 scores early because of some freak thing, I want a quarterback who can rally the teammates, rally the troops on the sideline, and say, hey, let's kick it up a gear, let's get going. Motivation and buy-in is a huge factor, and that's one of the things that makes Tom Brady such a great leader. The guys believe in him, they trust in him, and then they go out and do it. I want my quarterback to be able to come back from a 25-point deficit with only 2 minutes left in the third quarter in the Super Bowl. I want my quarterback to have those intangibles. So, although he might not be the most flashy arm talent, he's certainly not the most mobile quarterback. For his intangibles and leadership over the next year, 2, 3 years, I would take Tom Brady. However, for that 5-year mark, this is where, Tom Brady would be getting a little bit, well, not a little bit, we're just going to cut to the chase. He'd be old. He's going to be real old by 5 years, 5+ years. And so we're going to take a curveball. For those of you who know me, I have really never liked the concept of the mobile quarterback. I think it puts your franchise guy who you build a team around on the line in unnecessarily injury-prone situations. You can kind of see where we're going here. For my 5+ year quarterback, I am going to draft Lamar Jackson. I have my concerns about his injuries. We don't know how well his body is going to take these hits for years to come. He could handle them great and be a franchise guy for 15 years. Or this could burn out really quick and he becomes injury prone because he's taken too many hits. But ultimately, for a 5-year span, I'm willing to roll the dice. Because we saw with Michael Vick, he was unstoppable. The only person that stopped Michael Vick was himself and his injuries. So if Lamar can stay healthy for the next 5+ years, you'd be silly not to take Lamar. He's tearing it up. He's playing video games right now. He is an absolute transcendent talent right now. So for the next 5 years, if I'm drafting quarterbacks, for my 5-year quarterback, I'm going to take Lamar easy. But again, it's those injury concerns, which is why I'm not going to take him as my 15-plus year franchise quarterback. For that guy, you all saw this coming. I am going to draft Patrick Mahomes. I was slow on the bandwagon last year because I wanted to see himself prove himself a little bit more. Because we all know, after the first year, defensive coordinators, coaches, they have time to plan for you. They have film to study on you. They see your tendencies, what you do, and you get a more accurate representation of what the player is. So you can never learn too much from the rookie year. And whenever you're judging a quarterback, general rule of thumb, take out their best year, take out their worst year, and then average everything else in between. And that is your baseline. That's your quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes, even though he's taken a little step back this year, the dude can ball. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's mobile enough to make it happen. He hasn't shown himself to be injury prone like Carson Wentz, although he did have the injury early in the year, but that was just a freak thing. He's a tough kid. And he's a transcendent talent. We can all see it. I mean, he cannons that football around the field. And he is a natural-born leader. You can see the way his teammates look at him, that he is the leader of that team. So for the next 15-plus years, here at the Point After Podcast, we are taking Patrick Mahomes for our quarterback. That is going to wrap it up for our Point After Podcast tonight. We're going to be back on the air later in the week again. We will post our podcast schedule on our Instagram and our Twitter later this week. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Point After Podcast. I was your host, Mark Ewell. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And this is Point After Podcast, signing out.